Start streaming. We appear to be streaming. Yeah, look how much everything changes now that it's actually dark out when we're doing the show. Thanks, daylight saving time.
All right, let's make GeekNights in the morning
Yeah.
when you should be voting.
And unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at 6 a.m.
It's night somewhere.
GeekNights, it's night somewhere. Someday we got to record that end bit. We've recorded it like 5 times ever. 4 times? I think only 4 times. Oh, there's already people watching. Anyway, guess we're good to go. Oh, what's the name of this game?
Luna.
It's Tuesday, November 7th, 2017. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is GeekNights. Tonight, we're talking about the 2010 board game Luna in the domain of the Moon Priestess. Yes. So it's definitely too late for any of you who are listening to this. So rather than telling you that you should go vote, if you didn't vote, eat on it.
A lot of people listening to this don't even live in the United States. Maybe whatever country they live in, their voting day is today. Or maybe someone's listening to this way after the day we recorded it, and their voting day is today.
Oh yeah, that's possible. But if it is 2017 and
it's only in the United States where you vote on the second Tuesday of November,
and you're an American citizen, so we have elections every 4 years that like half of us vote in, and we have elections every 2 years that are just as important that like a quarter of us vote in. And then we have elections every year that, like, no one votes in.
Yeah, those in-between years. It's like in New York, it's basically like 1 year, which is this year, you vote for, like, mayor and shit. And then the next year, you vote for governor and shit. And then the year after that, you vote for, like, state represent. It's all mixed up. You basically keep voting for different people in different parts of government every year.
Yeah,
there's so many layers.
Most Americans don't vote in really any of those except the president one.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you didn't vote, you really should have voted. And if you're in New York, you probably should have voted against having a constitutional convention.
No, probably. I mean, that one wasn't really, the biggest deal either way.
Nah. But I guess the only point I want to make, because this isn't a politics episode, and because there's no way you'll listen to this before the voting.
We'll already know, by the time you hear this, we'll already know what happened.
Yep. But what I will say is that you should vote even in the small elections where someone is running uncontested. Because even there, casting an actual ballot and being a member of a party when you cast that ballot, it does one thing that's very important in the U.S. It is a clear signal to that party that you will show up in the next year's election. Mm-hmm. And they will use that data accordingly. Mm-hmm. If they know you're reliable and you're going to show up, they're much more likely to listen to what your little district cares about a little bit in a way that they will not. Certain causes in the U.S. tend to not get a lot of traction because the people who care about those causes are not the kind of people who vote.
Right.
Meaning,
if there's some tiny election and someone's running uncontested and in some tiny town, 10,000 extra people come up and just vote yes for that uncontested person, they go, oh, I got these 10,000 people just going to vote yes for me no matter what. So then when a rich guy says, hey, politician, why don't you do some evil? They say, I don't need your money, evil man. I can do what I believe in because I got these 10,000 people who vote for me even when I'm uncontested. I'm not afraid of being not elected again. Get your ass out of here, evil person, unless they are an evil person, in which case, contest them. If they're just greedy and they're taking the money and listening to the rich person and not to you, that they know you show up. They know that you're paying attention and showing up to vote, and then, If you're all staying at home, they go, these people staying at home, they're ignoring my evil ways. I can continue my evil ways unpunished. And that's what they do.
But that aside, we got a bunch of gaming news before we talk about this Luna game, which I didn't realize was as old as it is. Because I didn't really think
How old is it?
2010.
That's not that old.
7 years?
Anyway,
so in the news, this is such a minor thing, but it's pretty funny. Scott pointed this out to me.
It's barely a news.
Yeah, but there's a casting call in New York for people who play Netrunner to be on a Showtime show where they need 10 people playing Netrunner.
So our local Netrunner community organizer person, I guess, was the point of contact for this and was like, hey, do you spread the word about it? And like I can't figure out the whole deal, but basically there's going to be some scene in this show called Billions, which I've never watched. But
I've never even heard of.
I have heard of it because
How have you heard of it?
So the show Billions is about it's a obviously fictional.
Is it like Brewster's Millions, but
no,
with billions?
it is a fictional adaptation of real life events involving former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, and I listen to former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara's podcast, and he was like, he mentioned on the show how his parents were so proud there was going to be a TV show about their, awesome lawyer son. And then they started watching the first beginning of the show, and it's like some sexy garbage trash TV scene. And
it is showtime.
And then he's like, well, done with that garbage. Which is why a major reason, one of the many major reasons I don't watch live action American TV.
Are they going to kiss or are they going to fight?
Anyway.
Are they fighting over that girl in the middle? Is that what's going on
It's
here?
some garbage U.S. live action drama crap. You don't need to watch this show, except for the Netrunner scene that will be on YouTube for sure. But it's like, to do this thing, apparently the details are still sparse, but you get paid like $250 for a day of work, which ain't bad, really.
Yeah, especially if you don't have a high-paying job, or you're like,
that's pretty good money.
You're a punk kid? Like, yeah, go for it.
That's pretty good money.
If this had happened in
they're
Rochester...
looking for 10 people who actually know how to play Netrunner, and the fact that they know how to play Netrunner, I guess, is important, shows that the game will somehow feature in the show and not just be a backdrop. But apparently there's some scene, and the setting of the scene is a Netrunner tournament or event, and therefore they need to create this scene, and which is why they need these extras to play Netrunner there. And apparently it's not in New York City. They're getting people from New York to get on some mode of transportation.
What?
And take them to the Hamptons where the filming will occur.
Wait, that is definitely
for a very long period of time. I think you get on at like 3 or something, and they'll take you there, and you'll come back like way late.
That is definitely a murder cabin. No one's coming home.
From Thursday night through, Friday morning. Who knows when you'll get back. But you're getting paid money, good money for that amount of hours of work.
Well, if I
play Netrunner, so I don't know how you can complain about it.
If I didn't have anything better to do, that would be an experience.
I hope that they, obviously it's too much hassle for me to do it, even though the money's even okay for someone who has money like me, but I'd have to take off work, which is a problem.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to go to my boss and be like, someone's paying me to play a card game in the Hamptons
Yeah, the
today.
thing is, I don't trust some garbage TV show to portray geeks who play Netrunner in a positive, correct light. I expect it to be some horrible bullshit like Big Bang Theory, which is, basically, as offensive to nerds as, racist things are to people of color.
I would say that the latter is a bit more offensive.
Well, I mean, it's more offensive.
I see where you're going.
More offensive. It's saying it's obviously racism is a much worse problem.
No, I see where you're going with that.
Yes.
I just would not make that comparison.
Listen, racism is a much worse problem that harms people much, much more than any sort of discrimination against nerdy people. Nerdy people are much, 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 I can't have enough muches, less persecuted than people who are not white.
Just get those qualifications out there.
Yes, but, right, it is the same type of thing where you are putting out some incorrect stereotype, right, causing people to have bad views of a group.
So in other news, Blizzard, Overwatch, and I still play a lot of Overwatch, there is a lot of toxic behavior there because all gaming has a lot of toxic behavior.
Yes, especially competitive gaming.
And Blizzard has been attempting to, and they've been doing more than a lot of game companies.
Yeah, pretty much the League of Legends company, Riot, and Blizzard are doing the most of anyone, which is still not enough.
I mean, remember in our panel we did on quitting, like, Blizzard is pretty clear. Jeff Kaplan was like, if you're going to quit games, I'd rather just ban you from Overwatch completely. Like, There's no point in you even having the game.
Yep.
So they're taking that kind of stance.
People still quit the game.
So actually, since the hardline penalties on quitting have been coming into the game,
there's much less.
I have not seen someone quit a competitive game.
Mm-hmm.
Not one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of amazing, actually, to me.
It's happening. You're just not. It's just in games you're not playing in.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying it used to happen in a high percentage of the competitive games I was in.
Yep.
And it has happened in none of the competitive games I've been in for a while.
Mm-hmm.
they're actually escalating. You can read the details here, but they're escalating their punishment because one thing that they appear to be doing that is very good is that they are looking at data in terms of when they try a new thing, like punishing people in a certain way, does it actually affect the bad behavior or not in some quantitative fashion? And a thing that a lot of games do if someone is being shitty in communications is cutting off their communications. The problem they have discovered is that that actually seems to drive shitty people into more aggressive forms of harassing and griefing. Because if they can't say their racist stuff on the voice chat, they're going to throw the game instead. They're going to harass people with the actions of their characters instead. So it seems like the thing they're doing primarily...
It's like you ever see someone on the street who's mad and then the cops try to arrest him and they get even more mad? Like... You know, like they're just yelling at someone, but then the cops are like, oh, we're going to arrest you now. What the fuck? Right? They explode even more. That's that same phenomenon.
Yeah. So they're actually straight up going to start banning people, even for the things that previously they would just punish them for.
I still want someone to do my plan, which is you take everyone's credit card, and if someone misbehaves, you charge them a fortune of money. And if they don't pay, then debtor's prison.
I think a compromise solution would be if you buy Overwatch.
It works in like the professional sporting leagues. If you don't, you become, you join, and if you break the rules, you get a fight or something, you punch someone in the face, we fine you a few $1,000s.
So how about this? Overwatch costs what?
No one's gonna say a racial slur if it costs them $10,000.
Overwatch costs what, $40? So right now, in games like Counter-Strike, when people get banned, they buy another account, which creates a sort of interesting scenario where you're basically milking money out of racists by continually banning them.
That's still, they're not charging enough money. The fine should be a fortune.
Well, no. So what they should do, because if you buy the game for $40 and you get banned for one of those kinds of reasons, if you try to buy the game again, unless they just don't let you ever buy it again, like you're just banned as soon as they figure out
just make another account.
Yeah, but a lot of these companies are getting better at identifying when someone makes a new account because they had to use a credit card somewhere to buy it.
Yep.
And just banning them again after they take their money, which I think is really funny.
So I'm saying take a lot of their money.
No, so put them on a list. Oh, you were banned for this reason. To buy the game again, it's now $400.
No, you should have to pay the $400 and then not be able to play the game again. You're like, that's how it's like, oh, you buy the game for $40 because we need money, right? And if everyone behaves, we need some money, right? Oh, you said a racial slur. That's it. We're taking $10,000. Go to hell, eat shit, and die, and you can never play the game again. Sorry.
So anyway, what Overwatch is doing...
That's what I'm talking about.
...is that they're not doing things like hell-banning toxic people into their own hellscape.
Nope.
Or any of that stuff. They're taking the very direct, well, you're banned forever approach.
Yep. Sounds good.
So we'll see how this goes. And the problem with Overwatch is that with the competitive scene that is appearing, I'm laughing because people in the stream saw the headline of this tab, and the tab just said sex.
What a great headline.
So they're like, what's the fourth?
That's a headline that's going to get you some clicks. Good job, journalism.
Fourth tab from the left, dare I ask. So Overwatch's for real competitive professional league has not even begun games yet, and yet already a sexual assault scandal. A staff member of one of the teams.
It wasn't our New York team.
I don't think so.
Which has a really shitty name as far as I remember.
Appears to have allegedly sexually assaulted a Twitch streamer and was fired over it. There's a whole article here you can read.
Well, that's someone you can definitely find. They're an athlete in a sporting league. You can find them for sure, and not slightly jokingly like I was just talking about finding. Seriously find them.
Oh my God. And yet, so the C also, just in the middle of this article, is, hey,
also jail.
StarCraft player drunkenly harass women on stream gets banned. You can see why this is such a big problem. They can't even avoid this kind of thing happening in a league that has not yet started. That is the extent of this problem. So in other news, this is Scott's news.
Right. So there's actually a bunch of news. I'm going to combine all of them. One's a little bit older. And that is that there was a studio at EA, like EA bought this game studio. What's it called? Visceral Games or something, right? Is that what it's called?
Yep.
Yeah, and basically this is like a week or two ago, I think.
No, this is what's really funny. Scott was like, EA shut down some game studio Star Wars game. So I Googled for EA Star Wars layoff.
And you found an old story.
The top 2 articles are from right now, like October this year. EA shuts down Visceral Games, Star Wars game moving to other thing. The second link is after 1,000 layoffs, EA finds itself shorthanded for Star Wars games from 2013.
That was when they were starting with the Star Wars games. Now,
Yes.
Right, so basically,
Environmental storytelling via Google.
They had this studio that also had some famous gaming people working for it. Like, what's her name? Amy something? Like, they made Dead Space, I think, and some other
Dead
stuff.
Space, the Battlefield,
Kinda
Battlefield Hardline, which I never played.
The kind of games that Scott doesn't care about, right?
Yeah.
But they were still really...
Oh yeah, they were currently working on Uncharted with Amy Hennig.
Right. The point is that EA had the studio, and they were making a Star Wars single-player kind of experience game like Uncharted. It was only Star Wars of
And this
Uncharted.
studio is known for critically acclaimed AAA games that I don't personally
play,
enjoy.
but they're still big-time games, and they shut that shit down, right? So on top of that, right, it's now only a little while later, and Runic Games, the people who make Torchlight, they're done. Rest in peace.
Yep.
GG. And also in the news, Telltale Games, the people who make all those little adventure games like The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, and I think they had some Batman, I think.
Yep. Which I don't know anything about their sales numbers, but they seem to be doing well.
They got some Game of Thrones. They
Their
make all
games-
these adventure games. They seem to have like a huge fan club. And we were at PAX. We got that Telltale like mega pack of like every game that had been released up to that point.
Oh yeah, I haven't actually
I've
played any of them
zero
yet.
of them.
Yeah.
Because that's not my thing really. But they were
So
free,
I
I
figured
took 'em.
I thought I'd play them like on my laptop while I was traveling.
No.
Because that's the perfect thing to do on like a 20-hour flight. I ended up just playing Civ 6 on like every flight I had.
Yeah. And that's part of the point I'm about to make anyway. But they just laid off like 25% of their staff. So basically, big-time layoffs all across video game industry.
They at least, we can't get into the details of all these, but they did say something interesting, and the subtitle of this article delivers it succinctly. They're going to focus on delivering fewer, better games.
Right. So no, here's the real story, right? The story that is not written in the text, but in the subtext, or perhaps the subtext.
It's called subtext.
Yeah. Okay. What's happening here is because you think these people are making video games, holiday season's coming up, right? Your game should be coming out real soon and get you big money, right? No. What's actually going on here is this. The habits of people who play games these days, right, are for the people who play a lot of games, like video game people, right? The kind of people who would play a Star Wars game. These are all serious game companies, right? Making games for nerds, not phone games for everybody.
Yep.
The single-player games are not making the bank, or at least they're not making enough bank.
This is why so many
the
single-player
other
games are moving
All
toward
of these
loot crate
companies-
bullshit.
All of these companies are making single-player, one-time experiences, right? The adventure games from Telltale are episodic, but they're still buy it, play it, done with it. Torchlight, even though it has some co-op and stuff, is buy it, play it, done with it. That Star Wars game is a single-player thing that was going to be buy it, play it, done with it, right? The way the behaviors of gamers these days, self, Rim, everyone I know included.
Well, specifically PC gamers.
Right, especially, but even console people, is that you have some game or games that are the ones that you go back to, and they are almost definitely multiplayer games that have some sort of microtransaction or something that keeps you putting money into it forever, right? You got your Overwatch over there, Rim.
Yep.
You got your Civ over there.
Yep.
That's a game you can just keep going to with this multiplayer you can keep playing it forever. Right?
Except I also play the single player, but the single player is an experience that is effectively infinite unless you're crazy.
Right, but the single player games, you go to them like a Mario Odyssey or a Zelda, you play them, and then you're done with them.
Yep.
And then you put them on the shelf, and then unless you're a speedrunner or something, you go back to where you came from. You go,
maybe a few years down the road, you're like, I'll play through some Zelda again, but that's not.
maybe.
But even that would be even worse if when the clock rings to play a single player game.
The point
instead
is
of buying
they're
a new
not
one,
getting more than $50 out of you or 60 or whatever it is for that Mario. That's
Yep.
the end of it, right? How much money would the Overwatch get out of you if you were a loot crate buying person?
Yep. And the thing
Right.
is, and I actually read a couple articles about this. Like this topic is being discussed all over gaming circles, but it doesn't seem to be being discussed that much in like the games press. At least not the big games press.
Right. So what's going to happen here is you're going to see that Star Wars game is going to come back, and when it comes back, it's going to look a lot more like Destiny and a lot less
Yep.
like Uncharted, right? Those Telltale games, I don't know what's going to happen with them in the long run. We'll see if they can hold up. Right? I feel like the novelty of them has worn off a lot, and only the core fans are really sticking with those. If I was them, I would go mobile and sell them for a lot cheaper and make them a lot shorter. Right?
And those kinds of games,
like there's one on mobile. It's like I even play it. It's like the stupidest game where it's like it's almost like an escape room, but not quite. It's basically a lot of puzzles where you just manipulate stuff until you right. It's just like there'll be a weird object and you manipulate it a whole bunch and find all its secret compartments and everything, and then it lets you go to the next one. Or Monument Valley. Monument Valley, they came out with a sequel. Geniuses did exactly the things that Scott always says to do. Don't announce a release date. Don't even tell anyone you're working on it, really, right? They just, boom, they said Monument Valley 2, out today, out of nowhere, put it on the store, making a ton of money. Everyone with a phone buys it, plays it, and is done with it. But it costs nothing to make a fucking Monument Valley, right? Unlike where it costs probably millions to make that Star Wars game.
This is where I
so
think
it doesn't matter that everyone just paid $5 and went on their merry way.
the area that is in the most danger is the AAA single-player
expensive game that can't bring in money forever, that can only bring in money in one shot.
So a small single-player game from an indie studio has much more chance of breaking even than a AAA single-player experience.
Yep.
And I think this is only going to continue because
look at Torchlight, right? And now look at El Diablo. El Diablo is somehow, even though it's still a single-player game that you can just play over and over, Blizzard just keep squeezing as much money as it can.
Look at how many people play Counter-Strike.
Every single Blizzard game is a lifestyle game that they squeeze as much as they can to keep getting money out of. Even StarCraft 2 just went free to play, so it has loot boxes in it now, so that they can keep squeezing money out of every stone they got.
Yep. You're also seeing more and more mobile games that there's almost no actual game there. They're not quite just a clicker, but they're more like that Fire Emblem game where there's actually not much going on.
Yep.
But they're tied to an IP that people are fans of, but that IP where it traditionally made its money from a single-player game, buy the expensive Fire Emblem game, sales on those games I don't think are going up either. There's way more money to be made with psychologically addicting loot crate bullshit.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's going down, and it means that if you are working in the video game industry on like fancy AAA 3D single player games, you might want to go find some place to work that is making the the multiplayer kind that is the lifestyle game.
Or be sure the game you're working on, if it's a AAA single player experience, is the one that people are gonna play every couple months,
like a Mario or a Zelda or pretty much Nintendo only.
Of course, I'm burning through Mario Odyssey pretty fast.
Resident Evil actually sells a bunch.
Like, with almost no effort and very little time, I've gotten, like, 150 moons and just kind of blown through a huge chunk of the game.
Yeah, I played it a whole bunch in, like, 2 shots and got a zillion moons.
Dude,
like,
last night...
I basically beat the Donkey Kong Town.
I beat the fuck out of New Donk City.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go back to it probably pretty soon, especially during this little Thanksgiving little breaky.
Yeah, but what was funny is I was basically in New Donk City, and in the time between the second
How about
period,
that New Donk City ending part?
Oh my God, that was so great.
So good.
That was when that song starts playing and I go into that pipe and everyone's cheering. Yeah, it was good stuff.
That's good.
But at the same time, in the time between the second period
Mario
of the Rangers
Odyssey
game
episode
ending,
coming soon to GeekNights near you.
the second period ended of the Rangers game, and I was playing Mario until the third period started, so like 20 minutes or less. I got like 20 moons. Like, you can just, like, I just use, everywhere you look, it's like moon.
Yep.
Like Korok seeds. But, yeah, I basically only play the best single-player game that's in my queue at the time, and once I beat it, then I go back to Overwatch and Counter-Strike for, like, months. Until suddenly my brain is like, you should play a single-player game. And I go back to my queue, and I literally pick what is the best game I have access to in the entire world right now, and that's the one I'll play.
Since I'm all old and I can't do fast, accurate movements with my hands anymore, I've been sticking to card games as my go-back.
So, Scott,
games.
I found
Netrunner and Hearthstone.
I found by continuing to play twitchy games, I'm actually maintaining my skills to a good degree.
I lost the skills, and I don't know how to get them back.
Gotta just play.
I didn't maintain them when I had the chance, and
Scott,
now they're gone.
You gotta just play Counter-Strike again, and you know what?
How am I gonna get the skills back at Counter-Strike if I just get shot in the head immediately every time?
Because the skill ranking will put you down there with the wood tiers, and So, in my experience, in Overwatch at least,
What if I'm less than wood tier? What if I'm jello tier?
Scott, in Overwatch, the wood tiers, I am literally Neo, the god, walking around killing and not killing at my whim alone. I am invincible, and they die.
But even
if
my
I'm-
Rocket League skill went down. I was better at that than people I knew, just not better than people actually knew how to play.
Yeah.
And even that, I tried to play it again, and I was like, herp derp 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 derp. So I've lost a lot of hope.
All right. Oh, yeah, I didn't want to talk about it at the show, but Civ 6 got a crazy update.
I am aware.
There was so much. I looked at the endgame stuff. It's good.
I just don't have enough time in my life. I think I have to like do a reorganizing and decide which things I'm gonna do and which things I'm not gonna do. I might have to like stop watching Korean TV and stop doing other stuff. And
Well, like I made the conscious decision of I'm gonna play Overwatch a lot. I'm gonna play Civ 5 multiplayer a lot. Though that actually takes almost no time now.
As I lost a lot of Netrunner playing, but that's actually mostly the fault of the Netrunner moving to Wednesday night only.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna.
It's like
I'm gonna
half
give
the
up.
Wednesdays I can't go. I could go tomorrow. Oh, but I'm going to hockey game. You know.
See, what I started doing is playing single player games while I'm watching hockey.
Yeah. I don't play a single player game while I'm watching hockey. I usually cook and eat a dinner while I'm watching hockey.
Nah, we eat while we're watching the hockey, but I don't cook while I'm watching it. Sometimes I'll cook while I'm listening to it. Depends if I care about the game. If I care about the game I'm watching, that game last night I cared about. That game got real good from a real bad position. But all right. But anyway, things of the day. So, what was my thing? Oh, right.
You got to remember.
I don't know the context of this video in that I do not know how it was made. I assume this is not a human, but someone wrote a simple program to do this. I would guess, if I had to guess, that this is not a neural network or anything, but either a human did this themselves, which means Godspeed to you, good sir, that is amazing, or they wrote a simple script because I'm pretty sure the bombs are 100% deterministic in this game once you get to the end state. And this is just a 3-hour, 18-minute, and 15-second long video of a camera pointed at a CRT that has Kaboom on the 2600 running until the score hits 99999. It is hypnotic to watch, and I have nothing else to say about it.
Rim is the only person alive who still loves Kaboom, except for that one other person we met
I was about to
randomly
say,
at PAX who also loves Kaboom.
If you want to know
and the
why,
person who made this video.
If you want to know
Three
why,
people love Kaboom. Rim, that guy, and the person who made this video.
If you want
and
to
we
know
don't know
why
for
PAX,
sure the person who made this video isn't that guy.
PAX makes me diamond hard, and the reason that is because the first PAX I ever went to, among many things that happened to us at that PAX, was that moment where they had an Atari 2600, and I thought,
Kaboom was in it, and it was running.
And I out loud mused, wow, I wonder if anyone else in the world is good at this game. And there was a dude standing there who is good at that game and is just as obsessed with it as I am. The odds of that are 0, and yet it happened.
No,
at my
the odds
first
of it are in fact 1.
Well, yeah.
1.0.
The odd
It happened.
I thought the odds were 0. What I underestimated was the power of fucking PAX. So what do you got?
So I got an actually high quality thing of the day that shows, yet again that I'm the best picker of things of the day.
Good God, this is an amazing thing of the day. I can't even argue.
You can't even argue with this shit. So
how'd you find this?
Because I'm good at finding shit on the internet. So something you don't think about often is grave digging. Real life grave digging. Because it's pretty morbid. You don't think about it except that one time you go to the cemetery and there's people digging a grave, and it's like these laborers that don't talk and stay out of the way. And maybe you think for a second what their lives are like, and then you don't think about them anymore. It's like, how many people know someone who's like a grave digger just like as a friend? Or like, do you know someone with that profession? I sure don't.
I usually think about gravediggers in the context of Willie from The Simpsons digging graves.
Yeah, but even his job was school janitor and not gravedigger.
Yeah.
But anyway, gravedigger is that sort of like outcast from society kind of profession, right? It's not something people think about or whatever. And if you do think about it, it's like you wouldn't want to associate with someone who's a gravedigger. This kind of
Well, think again though. Remember, this is the like. There's like remember.
I mean, I would, but I'm saying in general.
Yeah, but remember,
you
Penn
get
and
a
Teller,
creepy feeling.
When we used to listen to Penn's podcast, he would talk a lot about like when someone is circus or not. Like if you're a circus person, then you know all this circus crap that normal people just have no idea. I feel like people in the death industry. This is just part of that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
are you death?
right.
You into death? Yeah, I know death. I know death stuff.
Obviously. So anyway, in Slovakia, there were some people who were gravediggers, and in the death industry, funeral homes, casket selling, etc., undertaking, and they were like, hey, let's try to like put on a different face on our work so that we're not so looked at with the creepy eye, and people can see that we're actually real people and not just that sort of laborer that you don't want to talk to when you're at a funeral.
Chris points out in the stream, I think that's an outcast life path in Burning Wheel.
Is it? Probably, yeah. So what they did here in Slovakia is they set up an annual grave digging championship and made grave digging into a sport. It's can you dig the grave, who can dig it fastest and also good enough, and then refill it.
That's a real good grave.
Yeah, it's like you dig the grave as fast as you can with your team of people, right? Using only the normal tools, shovels and strong arms, right? They check your grave to make sure it's legit, it's deep enough, long enough, wide enough, properly shaped, structurally sound, and then you fill that shit back in as fast as you can, and they give out trophies and stuff to put a good face on this thing and also make a pretty good sport that happens to have ties to death, which are unsettling, but maybe you can get over it if you watch this video.
This is pretty good.
And next time you go to a cemetery, look at the gravediggers with a different eye.
So in the meta moment, the book club book was the 5th season, and we read it. I'm going to pick the new book soon. I am almost done with the last book of the trilogy from the 5th season.
I haven't even started reading the second book.
I see why some people are disappointed with the second and third book, but I want to be very clear.
You are not among them?
I am not. So far, everything that the second or third book has revealed is the kind of thing that I wish.
You know a lot more about sockets than I do?
I know. So here's the thing. In, say, the later Prince of Nothing books, they'll be like, by the way, here's a whole bunch of shit. Like, here's the answer to a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
In this book, when that happens, when you get a big info dump,
there's more questions too?
No. It answers questions authoritatively in a really interesting way, yet somehow leaves intact other interrelated mysteries without raising new questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, but everything I've learned so far has just made me happier and more invested in the trilogy.
Mm.
Like,
you want to do some 5th season RPG?
It's all
Tabletop?
Ghost in the Shell, like... There's cool cyberpunky nonsense going on.
Oh, you just can't leave anything out. It's got to be everything, right? We got to have the fantasy and the sci-fi. And
you get some
cyberpunk.
flashbacks to like pre-season societies,
Mm-hmm.
and I know exactly what orogeny is, and it's great.
Nice.
What I don't know, though, I still don't know anything about Warrant and what that place is.
Is the Ghost in the Shell stuff related to the Guardians, I imagine?
Not just the
With
Guardians.
but they're cyber implants, right? Which you learn in book 1.
Book 2 goes into that in detail.
Good.
Shafa is, I think, my favorite character.
Yeah, no, he's way good, but he's not a sexy pirate captain.
No, I said favorite character, not best character.
Okay.
Not my husbando. We were at Gamer
Anyone
X.
want to do sexy pirate captain fan art? Send them to GeekNights at We have a forum, by the way, at community.frontrowcrew.com. You could come there, find the thread for the book club, and upload your sexy pirate captain fan art.
And yeah, if you happen to know anyone who looks like that character and acts like that character, just let
send
me know.
photos of your sexy pirate captain cosplay to rim at frontrowcrew.com.
So, our next convention is going to be PAX Unplugged.
It's like a week or 2 away. It's super soon. How soon is it?
November 17th, 18th, 19th in Philadelphia.
10 goddamn days. By the time you're listening to this, less than 10 days.
This is the inaugural tabletop-only PAX, but it is a full PAX just aimed solely at tabletop.
It's going to have Omegathon. It's going to have a keynote.
It's got a main theater just
the
like a normal
keynote
PAX.
is from, I think, the guy who's in charge of WotC, right? If you're a tabletop gaming person, how can you not hear what that person has to say?
So Saturday, at that, in Tabletop Tourney, 3:30 to 5:30 p.m., we're doing an epic Carcassonne event. We're going to teach a bunch of monsters how to be monstrous at Carcassonne and then make them fight with each other.
It's like giving everyone a perfect strategy guide to a multiplayer game, and then they all fight.
Yeah, it's going to be good stuff.
And see who is the best.
And otherwise, we're just going to be there playing games and enforcing it. It's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And otherwise, follow Scott on YouTube because a lot of our stuff is there. Follow me on YouTube. A lot of our stuff is there. Our Patreon, I'm still reading that Castlevania book. I'm going to finish that entire thing by the end of this month. And if you want a really, really weirdly homoerotic audiobook about Castlevania, that's then going to be the final output of what I'm doing in there right
we
now.
also got Twitch, we got the Instagrams, we got the Twitters, we got the Facebooks, we got the Google Plus, we got pretty much every kind of internet that there is.
GeekNights is even
Geek
posted
Nights.
on LinkedIn.
GeekNights is there. You can find it. Go and do so.
And at ReviewCon, which is what we're calling a thing where we get together with our hardcore friends and play hardcore games, we played a lot of board games. We're trying to review all of them before we forget about them.
Yes.
And one of the games we played was entirely new to me.
I'd never seen it before in my life.
I had never seen it.
But
I had never
the
played
box was appealing.
it. It is just called Luna. But apparently as an alternate name, the full name is Luna in the domain of the Moon Princess, which I guess
is definitely accurate.
It's been published by a bunch of different companies, but it was Z-Man at one point.
This is not a apparently very successful game. It's never became a big hit. I don't think if you asked most board game people about it, only the super nerdiest would know.
And my shortest possible assessment of it is that I have not encountered a game that is specifically like it. It combines...
It's definitely a unique game.
It combines
but it is not so amazing and to make it into like a great game that you want to play a whole bunch. But it's also not a bad game. It's not like, oh, this poopy game. It's just like it's not super great amazo game like say Power Grid or some Puerto Rico or something.
Yep.
But
it's a game that I want.
It's very unique and therefore worth playing if you're someone who cares about board games. Now that's your TLDR. You can stop listening, and then now we'll talk about the actual game.
But I would play it again because
I would play it again.
An interesting thing about it is that having played it once, the interrelations between the purely deterministic actions of the players is more complex than one might expect.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning, playing it again, I may take drastically different actions from the first time I played.
Mm-hmm.
And despite that complexity, the first time we played it, the scores were pretty close, and people developed wildly different directional heuristics that seem to converge.
Yeah, so first of all, this game is fascinating in that it is a perfect information game.
Yeah?
There's no cards in your hand. There's no secret. There's no deck of things flipping up. There's no nothing. It's literally just like, all right, everyone move your dudes.
Yep, move them around on these islands in a...
Right.
A crook slightly so worker placement game.
In the middle of the map, in the middle of the game, there's this big hex map thing, which contains the Moon Princess's castle. The Moon Princess never goes there.
Yeah.
But you can go there to pray to the Moon Princess and get a lot of victory points, apparently. And all around the Moon Princess's castle are these islands.
You know, it's funny because that middle part reminds me of the castle from Kalis in that it's the most prominent thing on the board, and it seemed to be the true endgame once people are reasonably skilled.
Yes. All around the castle are these islands, and each island has a different purpose, right? There's like an observatory, and I forget what all the different islands are. There's a bunch of them, and they all do something different.
Physically separate islands with a token that has an action.
They're separate little cardboard islands that are, look like islands.
And on each island, there is a token that is specific to that island that you can basically spend an action to take, and then you'll be able to use that later to do something. Independently of that, there is a Moon Priestess who moves from island to island in a deterministic fashion. Having more dudes on an island when she's there is worth victory points. And there's also this jerk who's going around the other direction, and you don't want to be on the island when he's there.
Mm-hmm.
And you basically, on your turn, you allocate
What if he's on the island with the Moon Princess?
Well, that was an interesting
Priestess.
situation that caused everyone to scatter to the winds.
Priestess, princess, I don't know.
Yeah, the theme, tying the theme to the game is pretty thin, similarly to how the theme of Village seems like it fits the game mechanics, but doesn't really when you dig into it. So I basically ignored the theme.
Right. So the first thing about this game that I noticed right away as soon as the rules were explained, that I didn't even need to play one turn of the game to realize this, is that you get some meeples and moving them is a pain in the ass.
Yep. You want
huge. As soon as they explain the rules, I'm like, God damn, it's going to be hard to move these guys around. The whole game is going to be really about moving these guys and getting them moved to where I need them to be.
So think of it kind of like when two people are having a fist fight, in that if they're high-level martial arts masters, the act of moving your body in a way to then punch someone is itself a telegraphing of what direction you're, like, what kind of thing you're about to do.
Yep.
You got to set up moves well in advance in a public space where everyone can see what you're setting up.
Yeah, so like you wanna move your meeple, you can move it barely, and it costs like a whole action, and it sucks.
And then everyone sees what you did and goes, huh.
And the guy's like spent, and the meeple can't do anything anymore because you moved it, right? You can move them way better if you get a boat, but to get a boat, you got to go to the island that has boats on it and take a boat tile. And now everyone sees that you took a boat tile. So you're basically really, when you do that, you're just delaying your action to get a better action later.
Now, I did find that a useful heuristic was by having any tile in front of you, kind of scared other people from committing to actions that tile could fuck up.
Yes.
And that so posturing became a big part of the game, which is why, even though they are so different that I would not compare them otherwise, and I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression from this comparison, but this game shares that very strongly with Hansa Teutonica, in that the game is, you can make very incremental actions on the board at significant personal cost, meaning there's a very limited number of actions you can take.
Yep.
And the mere act of positioning something gives other players a ton of information about what you're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So-
And things that they can do now.
Yep. But then when someone else puts something down, it definitely informs. So, like, when I see Scott's still got 2 guys he could put out, and I want to get the majority on the Priestess, but Scott could put the guys there, so
You don't want to make a move if someone else still has the ability to disrupt that move. You wait until your move is invincible and not unthreatened, and then make it.
But if everyone waits that, then you get
otherwise, if you commit your 2 movements to go see the Moon Priestess, and then someone else commits 3, and now you committed your moves and you got nothing for it.
Yep, but at the same time, you gotta move somewhere. Like, you gotta do stuff. You gotta play your hand.
You can't not do anything.
You can't just posture forever. Which
you can pass and take a candle. But then what happens is, like, sure, the board can go, if no one else passes, it'll come back to you and you can do something. You don't have to keep passing. You can unpass.
Now, this is what's crazy. This passing mechanic, and I cannot stress this enough, it is very rare that when someone does something weird with a generally agreed upon mechanic in games, usually that's bad, like in Ground Floor.
Yep.
I kind of like this candle mechanic, but I guarantee if you're not careful, you're going to explain it wrong or do it wrong.
I was not properly educated on this rule when we started, and
which was your own fault because it was explained like 5 times.
But it's a non-standard passing mechanic, which is why my eyes didn't pay. I glazed over when it was being explained. But basically, there's 4 or 5 candle tiles. How many? Some number.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, it might be the number of players. I don't know. But anyway, if you
4.
If you pass, you take a candle tile, and the candle starts to burn out, right? And then if the game gets back around to you, and the candle still hasn't burnt out, you can obviously pass again. You could also take an action.
But
right?
passing again takes another candle, so it's not like most games. If they have this kind of mechanic, it's
usually when you pass, you're out for the rest of the round or something. Nope, not in this game. As long as this candle, you can keep going.
Now, the other alternative way that goes is people can pass, and if they're not permanently out, they can unpass. And the other way games tend to do this is the round only ends if everyone passes once in a row.
It's like, nope, there just needs to be, the candle has to burn out. One person could take all the candle pieces, and that would burn it out.
So
obviously, that
I
person
pass,
would
Scott takes an action, Chris takes an action, I pass again. Now everyone goes, oh, shit.
Right. It's like you can basically take burn the candle out as your action to sort of threaten people and to realize, oh, shit, I might not get another action now. Crap, the candle has burnt this much. We didn't learn that till much later in the game, but knowing now what I know...
You keep saying we. It was just you. You were the
only
one
confused. If I had
confused.
understood that better, the next time I play this game, there's going to be a lot of rounds where I'm just like, candle.
That's fine.
All right, go.
Especially because if you take candle early, it sort of puts a timer on everyone else.
Yeah, it makes them take an action for me to respond to instead of me taking the first action and putting myself at disadvantage.
So there's this worker placement game, which has part of the reason why we're not getting into the specific mechanics of all these things.
I forget them. I played the game once, and it was a while ago.
They're kind of immaterial to the review, and there's a lot of them, and they don't make sense unless we literally teach you the whole game.
Yeah, but basically each island has a tile. The tiles can do things, but you have to sort of move a guy to a place, get a tile, then use the tile. It's very slow, and you're telegraphing everything that you can or might do. The main thing is the middle of the board where the hexes are.
We say the main thing, but really it's more like the end game.
Sort of.
It's the goal, but really the goal is victory points.
You get these treasures by claiming them, and then you put them into the middle, and they're worth points, and you can also bump people out of the middle that are adjacent to you by attacking.
That is not what the fiction is. I don't care what the fiction is.
Yeah,
but
no.
The mechanic of this is pretty unique.
You can also lock your guys in and prevent them from being bumped.
So you've got to, but that's one of those tile actions.
Yep.
So basically you've got this hex area, and there is a limited number of the treasure type things where the numbers just count up. There's higher and higher numbers.
It's all deterministic.
And you can only, you can spend actions to claim one and spend actions to put them into the castle.
Mm-hmm.
If someone puts a higher numbered one next to one of yours with a lower number, your guy gets fucked, basically.
Yep.
He's kicked out, and he goes to a special place where he can't even do normal movement. He has to use one of those boats to get out.
You have to use a crappy move. You have to get an extra action and use a bunch of resources to rescue that guy now because he's stuck on the dock of the castle.
It's real bad
Yep.
if it happens to you.
Yep.
But you can only take numbers so high.
There was a notable turn where I saw Rim was in a vulnerable position, and I basically was just waiting and hoping Rim would do this, and then he did it. And then I went, yeah, I did it. All right.
So remember the provost in Kalis that would sort of move along to sort of set boundaries for what you can do?
Yep.
So there's a mechanic like the provost, and that every turn, this thing moves further down this track.
Activating more of the treasures.
Yes, unlocking higher numbers of treasure.
And bringing you closer to the end game.
The earlier you move in, you can get points for moving in, but now you've got guys that are vulnerable that could be kicked out for the end of the game.
But moving in late is hard.
One of the worker things you can do is get a tile that will let you skip one level ahead of that provost.
Yep.
And all that combined makes a pretty complex mechanic that you could build an entire game around.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
this is the sub-game of getting victory points within the game of doing stuff with these islands.
So, pretty much, if I hadn't read these rules and played this game reeks of a game that would fail in the way that Ground Floor failed. In that it has multiple mechanics that are like known mechanics but are crooked in a way that is not commonly known, meaning they're easy to mess up, coupled with having multiple significantly complex mechanics in the same game that are not obviously and directly interrelated, and yet they work pretty well together.
Yeah, it's weird. There's a lot of games like this out there. I remember playing a lot of them back in the RIT days. Where there are these really sort of semi-unique Euros that have things and mechanics that are really different from every other kind of game.
Like Village is actually a recent example of a game that felt that way.
Yeah, Village with the people dying and going in the there's no other game that does that, right? And that sort of makes me personally want to play them, but it doesn't make me want to It makes me want to play them a few times, right? And then sort of that novelty is the thing the game has going for it. Because really, the game to play is mostly kind of frustrating with all these limited actions.
But at the same time,
it's not like a super fun time.
But Tikal, Mexica, Java have that same thing. What was the joke we always said? The way they figure out how many actions you get in those games is to keep reducing the number by one until a fist fight breaks out in the playtesters.
Right.
And then add one and leave it there.
But yeah, it's not super fun to play, and the theme isn't that exciting, even though Moon Priestess is pretty cool, right? But
it was intellectually stimulating and difficult, and I enjoyed my experience such that I want to play it again.
Yeah, I want to play it a few times, but I wouldn't want to buy it or play it a whole bunch or make it my favorite game or give it. It's not like a great game that deserves awards or anything like that. It's just this totally unique, weird, still good thing that someone who is way into board games should definitely check out for a different experience, but obviously doesn't have the mass. I don't want to say it doesn't deserve mass market, I guess sales, but it doesn't have mass market sales, so it has what it deserves.
But it feels very. I felt good about the decisions I was making. Decisions I made mattered a lot most of the time.
You don't get a lot of them. That's why.
Yep, but. The one thing it lacks is that because it's got some fairly complex mechanics all sort of interoperating, it doesn't have the sort of I don't know, simplistic elegance of Hansa Teutonica, which has a very similar reactive and posturing component. So I want to play this 2 or 3 more times, and it's possible that I would enjoy it beyond that, but I'm not sure because I don't know if the game will lock into either a degenerate strategy among significant analysis or a sort of very steady state, like there is only one clear way to win and everyone's just racing to do it. So we'll see. But I liked it, and I haven't played a game like it. And I think you should at least, if you see it at a con, you should definitely take it out of the library and play it. But I would not buy it sight unseen.
No, I definitely, it's one of those games you see it in a convention library, you can be like, what the hell is that? And if you ever say that about a game, play it at least one time.
Yeah.
Like there's that mermaid game in the PAX library. I don't know what the hell that is, but I really want to play it one time.
But I guess this game
I think it actually might have gotten culled. I don't know.
This game has a lot of meat to it, more meat than you might expect. And despite having the trappings of the kinds of things that make me very wary of a game, it actually executed on those things.
Also,
it's
a perfect information game, so don't neglect that fact. There's not a lot of perfect information games out there.
And the ones
so if you want a game that has no randomness, no secrets, no bluffing, and really, a lot more like chess, only obviously more Euro style, this is one to look at because there aren't many in that category.
The perfect information games that have these kinds of mechanics tend to devolve very rapidly into this is the only clear path to victory.
Or usually they're abstract like Oshi.
Yeah, but this one, I'm really curious if after 2 or 3 more plays, there is a very clear sequence to victory.
Probably.
I don't know. Other games that I have played that I would have made the same sort of question about definitely devolve very rapidly. This one, at the end of our first play, I didn't have a path yet. And that is notable to me. Because usually I find that path and I don't ever want to play the game again. I actually do want to play this game again. And you know us on GeekNights, wanting to play a game again is one of the highest pieces of praise we can ever give to a game.
Sure.
It's like play once, play more than once, play forever. Those are the 3 levels you got. I did not yet. Nothing on the floor. Except Blue Tommy. You want that back? Oh, here, let me stop the stream. Still streaming.